Dr. Schreiner, two medical doctors. I've known both of them for a while. Dr. Schreiner I've known a long time. He's been a supporter of our organization and ministry a long time. He used to live up in Minnesota. Now he is here in our great state of Tennessee, the other side of the state. I want to talk to them tonight about the attack on doctors and really also an attack on parental authority and what's going on where doctors and pediatricians are coming against these like different pediatrician associations and what they want doctors to have to do, which includes not really respecting their autonomy as individuals and parental authority. And maybe what we really need, and I'll ask them, is a doctor's Bill of Rights. Because a lot of good doctors have been thrown out of work. They've been fired, which means thrown out of work, Brandon. They've been harassed because they're simply keeping their oath, do no harm, and respecting parental authority. And many of them have religious convictions as well. But then I also want to ask them about, because again, I just call them the way I see them. President Trump's doing a lot of great things. I just told you one. But I'm a little concerned about the whole digitization of our health records. Is that whole digitalization of our health records with big tech, as went down yesterday at the White House, is that going to set up social credit scores and get the government where they're more involved with big tech, where they can actually push things through like vaccine passports, etc.? I want to talk to them about that. And then we're going to be joined by our reporter on the ground in Israel, Aaron Lavarco, who has gone to another biblical site and giving us a tour. About every week, he's releasing a new video where he goes to a biblical site and gives a tour. Got another one tonight. We're going to unveil that for you. A lot of you have never been to Israel. Some of you have, but a lot of you like me, I've never been. I don't have any plans of going, but I sure am enjoying these tours we're getting from our tour guide and reporter on the ground, Aaron Lavarco. We'll bring that to you tonight. All right, before we go to Colonel Rob Manus, my lovely wife, Melissa, she just brought me my Gatatana, Dali. Yeah, you get a half a scoop on your food every day. This is my phytoplankton. And why don't you guys go? It's got 5 clinical trials behind it. I drink it every day. You can go to melissahousegpa.com, melissahousegpa.com. There it is, melissahousegpa.com, and read all about it. It goes to your cellular level, feeds the mitochondria. This is all natural, no additives. Okay? Here's that cat that had a tumor, got on the Gatatana, tumor gone. Remember the guy that started this? I'm not making claims, but he was raising this for his shellfish, got a terminal diagnosis, started eating it, went in for biopsies, came back benign. Lived another 10 years, retired to Hawaii. I'm just telling you. Maybe the goal here, folks, is to boost your mitochondria, boost your cells, make them healthy, and then guess what? Maybe your own immune system can then fight off bad things. So I take this every day. I've been taking about 2 of these a day, actually, trying to boost my immune system, protect my voice, because I've been struggling for a few months with that. So there you go. You know, it does. People say, what does it taste like? Well, the first time I had it, it tasted a little green. But after the first time, I don't really taste anything. It just tastes like basically water. I don't even taste it really anymore as far as the green. Just barely taste it, if at all. Just it's not something you have to choke down. I'll just tell you that. A lot of times I'll have it with a meal. I'm like, I'll have another shot of that, and I have it with a meal. My wife's like, you want water? I'm like, Gatatana, which is water, plus Gatatana. Dolly doesn't even flinch. I sprinkle it on her food. She just gobbles the food down. I can feel it going to the cellular level already. But there you go. What else do? I do Bella Grace. That has 80 clinical trials behind it. Go to melissahousebg.com. melissahousebg.com. This is a powerful elixir with 3 powerful ingredients, including collagen. Look at that hair growth. Whoop, they just took the camera off. Look at that amazing hair growth. My wife said to me late last night, we were playing a round of gin. She's really good at gin, I have to tell you. Whew, she keeps me humble. She beats me. She beats me at gin. Not always, but she does. Anyway, last night I was playing gin with her, and she, all the blue, said, "Your hair is so thick." I love it when she says that. She says that every now and then. She'll see, and she's so shocked by it because it was going thin for a while there, folks. So I got on Bella Grace. So I'm a Bella Grace guy here. I'll tell you that. Roll it up like a tube of toothpaste. You don't want to waste any of it. It's so good for you. And we have so many people in our audience that tell us about the results they've gotten, like where they can't walk around one of those big box stores, or joints hurt so bad they get on this. They are. People that were going to go in for surgery, one lady for her finger, she couldn't bend it, got on this. Bends her finger, didn't need surgery. I mean, we're talking about Bella Grace having that collagen, which is great for our joints and limbs and everything, muscles. But then the cat's claw, the anti-inflammatory, and then the astaxanthin that crosses the brain-blood barrier, loaded with antioxidant. This is the real deal. Of course, they also have not only the elixir, but they also have the skincare. Melissa loves that. The Bella Trim weight management and the sleep gummies. Melissa loves those. I don't do the skincare, which might come as a nice bit of news that I don't do the skincare. I think that's mainly for women. So anyway, she loves it. She loves that. And she loves the Bella Trim, all natural weight, plant-based. They have a new product coming out. I can't tell you what it is. I do know. I just found out. They sent it to me. Melissa's been taking it. I got to get on it this weekend. She's excited. She actually said, "Hey, Brandon, we should develop a product with X, Y, and Z in it." And she'd been researching it, told me it was all about. Next thing I know, Dr. Lucky's calling me saying, "Hey, I'm sending you our new product. We don't want to announce it yet, but here's what it is and here's what's in it." And I said, "I think my wife was talking about the importance of that ingredient, those ingredients." And sure enough, so she's pretty excited about that. We hopefully will announce that to you the 1st of September, just a month from now. But check out melissahousebg.com. So anyway, and if you want to go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors, you can find out. Look at there. We finally got an banner up for My Pillow. Just use the promo code B66, please. And then, of course, get your satellite phone at worldviewtalk.com. I have a satellite phone, and I carry it with me when I travel. And again, cell phones go down, cell towers go down, something happens to the power grid that keeps them from being up. You can just go outside, turn it on, acquire a satellite, and talk. And if you travel to a bad area, bad cells area, you guys go hiking, camping, you can get the cell phone for free when you sign up for one of their very reasonable plans. So please consider doing that. Post the solar generators and so much more. You can use the phone number there. These are great sponsors, but they only pay us when you use their products. So we go with top-notch products. So please use these products. You need them anyway, and we need the support. Everybody's winning. Oh, of course, the Numi. I swish with this. I'm swishing with this about 3 times a day now. I was doing 2, but now I'm 3. Because again, I'm really trying to get my immune system back up and get my voice back where it needs to be. And I'm noticing a difference. So that's loaded with glutathione. Detoxes your cells. Some studies show it may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. So again, check all that out. All right, joining me now is Leo Holman by phone. We got breaking news. A tweet, Truth Social by President Trump about nuclear submarines, and now this one. So it's a busy news night for a Friday night. Here we go. This one makes my day. Corporation for Public Broadcasting will shut down after Trump funding. Again, there's so many things President Trump is doing that I just absolutely love. Here's another one. You know, there's so many things he's done. I don't agree with everything, folks, but there's a lot I sure agree with. And I think under Kamala Harris, we would probably already be shut down. I'm not kidding you, folks, or curtailed as to how much we could say. So, you know, I'm pretty thankful for where we're at right now. But this is big news. And joining me to talk about it is a longtime newsman himself, author, journalist. He owned a newspaper, and he's, of course, the senior producer of the Worldview Report, our nightly newscast. He joins us by phone because he actually has a life outside of my broadcast on a Friday night. I'm envious. I'm envious. He's probably getting ready to go to dinner somewhere nice. And here I am in a dark studio. But don't feel sorry for me. Joining me now is Leo Holman. Hello, Leo.
Hello, Brandon. Yes, you really do need to get a life.
You're about to probably go and have a nice meal on a Friday night, aren't you?
Yeah, maybe a nice juicy steak or something.
Woo.
Yeah, maybe a salmon. I don't know.
All right. Well, you have fun while I'm slaving away here in the studio in a dark studio with no windows. But like I said,
it's actually really some intense weather right here in Georgia right now. We're experiencing, thunder, a bad thunderstorm.
Yeah, well, be safe. All right, But this made my day. Look at what CNN reports. Corporation for Public Broadcasting will shut down after Trump funding cuts. I thought it was actually a joke. I thought, this. I saw it on X. I thought that's got to be a meme, somebody wanting that to happen. Then I went to the article. Sure enough, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting announced Friday that it will wind down its operation due to the successful Republican effort to defund local PBS and NPR stations across the country. The announcement came just over a week after President Donald Trump enacted a rescissions bill clawing back, I love that word, clawing back congressionally approved federal funds for public media and foreign aid. Of the $9 billion in canceled funds, $1.1 billion, with a B, folks, was earmarked for the corporation for the next 2 years. 2 years! Yeah, that's what we've been telling you guys for years. They get $500 million. You guys remember me telling you PBS gets $500 million a year? Leo, for about, I don't know, 2, 3 million, 5 million, we could probably broadcast for years to come. It costs us around $40,000 a month to operate, not counting my salary. This is our cost. So at that rate, let me do the math on that, right? I mean, I shouldn't have to. That's $480,000. Okay, so just say roughly $500,000. Okay, we're operating all this great programming for $500,000 a year, not counting my salary, and they need $500 million a year. First of all,
So you have $500,000, and they need $500 million.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Now, first of all, number one, folks, television broadcasting and doing it right is very, very expensive, okay? And we cut constantly. We are constantly looking, where can we cut? What services don't we need? Can we cut $100 here, $200 there, $500 there? What can we find that we don't need and cut? How can we generate more revenue? It is this. I do this 7 days a week, folks. Even when I'm not on the air, I'm still administrating this network and paying bills and looking at the budgets. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of, takes a lot to keep a network going. But PBS, apparently they didn't have to worry about that because they were getting $500 million a year. I mean, I could operate easily on that, right? Now, what about all that corporation money? I remember watching PBS. This is brought to you by, and it would name some big corporation that was giving a grant. Are you telling me they can't make it on their grants alone?
Well, I would say I would like to see the breakdown, Brandon, of government grants versus private corporation grants. They're always thanking these large corporations after every story that they bring to us. Now, I wonder if they're not crying wolf and saying we're going to shut down. And did they give a date as to when they're going to shut down?
Oh, yeah. They're planning on staying open. 60 years, the organization was founded more than 60 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They have to shut down without federal support. Most larger stations have numerous funding sources, including viewer and listener donations, to soften the blow dealt by Congress. Still, public media executives have warned that interconnected systems will be weakened in various ways without federal funding as a foundation. Most of the corporation's roughly 100 staff positions will be eliminated when the money runs out on September 30th. The CPB, Corporate Broadcasting Public what is that, corporate public broadcasting, will maintain a small transition team through January to guarantee a, quote, responsible and orderly closeout of operations, end quote.
So I have to wonder if maybe they're playing the poor me victim card, while at the same time they're soliciting their corporate buddies in the corporate world to bail them out, maybe double the size of their grants. And so I don't think this is the final chapter for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. I hope it is, and I can certainly feel no remorse or sorrow for them, Brandon, because they're one of the most corrupt news outlets that we have and have been for a long, long time. But I have to believe they have a plan B up their sleeve over the next couple of months. It may or may not pan out, but I think you'll see them making some phone calls. They're probably on the phone right now, Brandon, in fact, with people like Bill Gates and what have you, large corporate donors, George Soros, Gates. There's just innumerable people with deep pockets who share their agenda who probably don't want to lose that voice.
Yeah, I would bet not. Well, I want to stress to the audience, folks, that we don't get government money, and we never have. We're a listener-supported network, as you well know. But here they are. They can't make it without the government. And yet, didn't we find out there were a lot of news agencies out there, too, that were getting government money?
Yeah.
Well, this partly tells me their audience isn't as big as we thought, because we are supported, and we're staying alive as a listener-supported network. Why can't they? Because apparently they don't have a big enough audience to support themselves. Or do they have too many costs, too many big salaries, too many big buildings? What do you think it is?
Absolutely, a lot of fat cats in the boardrooms and in the corporate offices of these media corporations, Brandon. That's why we call it the corporate media.
Right.
They serve the interests of the largest corporations in America, on a daily basis. They do not serve their readers, which, as you pointed out accurately, their readership is much smaller than they claim. I've been in the business. I know how media outlets lie to advertisers and tell them they have, X number of readers or X number of viewers, and it's really only a fraction of that, and they're never held to any sort of, auditing to there's no real accurate auditing system to find out whether the corporation is lying to the advertiser or not. So the advertiser forks over X number of dollars thinking that they're going to get millions of eyes on an advertisement when in fact it's really a fraction of that. But what they do get, Brandon, in this case with a establishment corporate media outlet like public broadcasting, is favorable coverage. So what they're really purchasing is not so much an advertisement that's going to, make them a lot of money by selling more of their product, but in essence, it's really buying favorable coverage. We see that all the time. We saw it during the COVID fiasco with the vaccine manufacturers. This story brought to you by Pfizer. And so the media outlets who were raking in all of these vaccine manufacturing advertisement dollars never said a single word, never critically covered the historic rollout of these unsafe and ineffective vaccines. They were afraid to bite the hand that feeds them.
Yep, absolutely. Wow. Okay, so I want to switch gears real quick. This is over at the Burning Platform, burningplatform.com, and our website I read news stories on for a long time. And they got a lengthy article. Some of it I agree with. I don't agree with everything he's writing, but I agree with a lot of what he's saying over here. Very interesting. He's talking about the fourth turning, the idea of going to a fourth turning. That was a book written years ago. Both the Fed, he writes, and the Wall Street Journal, both the Fed and their Wall Street owner banks have massive levels of unrealized losses due to purchasing treasuries and mortgage-backed securities when interest rates were close to zero, courtesy of the Fed. The banks currently have $450 billion of unrealized losses, while the Federal Reserve has over $900 billion. If these losses were realized, our entire banking system would be destroyed. They all seem to be in a bit of a pickle, but no one in the mainstream media, DC, or financial industry says a word. They use the Sergeant Schultz mantra, I see nothing. The reality is we are in an extremely risky situation. Isn't that interesting, Leo? You want to comment on this?
Yeah, I think this has been building for a long time, Brandon. And when the bubble finally pops on all of these risky investments from the banks, it's going to make 2008 look like child's play. I really believe that. And I think that's why President Trump has got this stable coin, which really amounts to a CBDC, in place so that he can seamlessly switch over to that when the dollar takes its final beating. And it's been taking a beating this year, 2025, gradually. But I think when the collapse comes, it's going to be worse than anyone expects. I'm not sure about all of the different industries, how they're going to be hit. For instance, the auto industry, the housing industry, manufacturing, retail. Some will be devastated. Others, I imagine, might get by barely. But it's going to put out the remaining cadre of small businesses. We saw a huge decline in the number of small businesses during COVID. I think when the next crisis, economic crisis, when this bubble pops, and there's an actual economic reckoning, that is going to be more devastating on the small businesses than it will on the large corporations. And I think that's the plan. I think that's what the globalists want. There's too much autonomy there, and it funds a large middle class. When you look at the small businesses in America, they're able to deal in cash sometimes. The government doesn't like that. So then we get the CBDC in place, and we take total control, and we're able to watch every transaction in real time. As Pippa Malmgren, Dr. Pippa Malmgren warned us in, I think it was 2022, that 2022 or 2023, she said that we were on the precipice of an all-new system of money and accounting, and it would be based on a new digital system on the blockchain that is going to give them what she called a perfect reading of what's going on in the economy on every transaction, big or small, all over the world. That is the goal. No more freedom of movement, no more freedom of purchase, no more freedom, no anonymous purchases whatsoever, and also no more freedom of speech. I would say those are the big three on the globalist agenda right now.
Exactly. All right, one other item real quick I think you might find interesting, and that is the Pulte. Mr. Pulte, he is the U.S. Director of Federal Housing. He tweeted out today, Adriana D. Kugler submits resignation as a member of the Federal Reserve Board effective August 8th, 1 week from today. Apparently, Dr. Kugler, who has served as a governor since September 13th, 2023, submitted her letter of resignation to President Trump and will return to the Georgetown University as a professor this fall. What do you think's going on there, Leo?
I can't say to have any insight on that one, Brandon, but are they perhaps telegraphing some sort of a housing crash? I don't know. And she's going to go back into, a professorship at the Jesuit University of Georgetown, where she'll have a nice, cozy office, I'm sure, which will be insulating her from any fallout from what's coming out here in the real world.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I thought, is this jumping ship? All right. LeoHolman.com and LeoHolman.substack.com. LeoHolman.com and LeoHolman.substack.com. Leo, I hope you have a great meal.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Brandon, and I hope you get some leisure time this weekend.
Thank you, Leo. I haven't decided yet. I'm trying to decide, am I going to study Saturday and Sunday and teach Revelation, or am I going to take off this weekend? Because I really want to take off next weekend for my wife's birthday. So I haven't decided yet. But I think I'm prone to studying and being here Sunday night. But next weekend, I'll get some time off for my wife's birthday. All right. Thank you, Leo. LeoHoman.com and LeoHoman.substack.com. We'll be right back after this break. Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouseBG.com. Joining me now is Colonel Rob Maness. He was on with me at 1 o'clock Central today on radio and TV, but we've got to bring him back. Very interesting True Social post today by President Trump. Look at this. Based on the highly provocative statements of the former president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, who is now the deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, I have ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in the appropriate regions, just in case these foolish and inflammatory statements are more than just that. Words are very important and can often lead to unintended consequences. I hope this will not be one of those instances. Thank you for your attention to this matter. All right. I wanted to bring you back on because this is so important. So to those who saw it at radio and TV time, 1 o'clock Central today, bear with us, won't go very long tonight. But I got to get a response from Colonel Rob Maness, who was in that very sensitive room in the Pentagon dealing with nuclear deterrence, writing the black book that goes with the nuclear football for the president. This is his wheelhouse. Now, we all are pretty used to President Trump posting like this, but this is not traditionally the way commanders-in-chief communicate, but we're all pretty well used to it with President Trump, so it doesn't bother me. But what does this say to Putin? Is Putin taking this seriously or not? And is it a dangerous thing, or is it just, I don't know, how do you analyze this?
Well, it's a couple of different messages that are running parallel to each other. One of them is military, because the president's the commander in chief and everything, Brandon. So he's telling the Russians that, hey, we are serious about backing up Ukraine. We're not going to back off. And we are prepositioning our assets in case your words from your attack dog, Medvedev, are going to be more than just words. Warning. That's what that is. Now, on the political side, that's the message to the president of Russia. Call your attack dog off. We are serious about this. And then back on the national security side, let's talk about nuclear deterrence here for a moment. Now, I don't have any insight into what Russia's nuclear forces are actively doing, whether they're changing their positions or posture at this moment in time. But the way things work with nuclear forces is in this case, the President of the United States has removed the veil of ambiguity on two of our nuclear submarines. He doesn't say whether they're ballistic missile submarines or Tomahawk missile submarines, but he says they are nuclear submarines. Now, they all have nuclear power. So that's significant. So it's not a direct threat on the nuclear weapons side, but it is a threat based on past performance. And the past performance is just last month against Iran's one of their 3 nuclear targets. An attack submarine, a nuclear-powered attack submarine, fired Tomahawk cruise missiles into that 3rd target and destroyed it over a long distance. So that's the message from a nuclear deterrence perspective. Now, normally, the way these types of things would work, and this is very significant for a commander-in-chief of a nuclear power like the United States to highlight that he is directing submarines to move, Brandon. Submarines' locations are highly classified, the most important of secrets, especially the sea-launched ballistic missile, or SLBM, ballistic missile submarines. We nicknamed them boomers, the big ones, that their missiles are intercontinental, and we keep them underwater when they're out at sea on patrol all the time to not reveal their locations, because that is our guarantee that if somebody attacks us with nuclear weapons, you will see a response. So it's very important that, in a very significant message, that the president's talking about any nuclear-powered submarines of the United States Navy, let alone any of these boomers. And he wasn't specific. So that's another significant message to the president of Russia that I'm not messing around. Let's get to the peace table. The next thing that happens, if you attack us or do anything that looks like an attack on us, bad things could happen. It's a small step on the escalatory ladder, but it is a step.
It is a step. All right. So do you ever perceive, because you and I discussed on radio today, that the CIA has been heavily involved in this war against Russia?
Sure.
CIA bases in Ukraine, like 10 of them. We know that we're the ones providing some of the ability to strike deep inside Russia. That we are behind some of the drones and that technology and what's going on there. Maybe even some of the cyber hacking on banks. Who knows what else, right? At what point does Putin say, okay, I'm going to cyber hack and bring down some of your banks. I'm going to bring down your power grid, or one of the 3 power grids. At what point does he finally say, you guys have been doing this to us and now we're going to do it to you? Or it's done and he says nothing. But we all are left here wondering, wow. I guess the other concern is, with this going on, how do we know some third party doesn't do something to America's banking system or power grid, and then they blame it on Russia? How do we know the globalists, the deep staters? How do we know our own CIA? I mean, they talked about pulling false flag operations during the Kennedy administration to convince the American people to have the guts, not the guts, but the stomach to go to war over Cuba. And the American people were like, we don't want to go to any more wars. We're done with this. And they're like, well, let's come up with some idea, Operation Northwoods, as it was called, and stage some terrorist attacks and kill some innocent people in America and Florida, and then the American people will be ready to go into Cuba. And President Kennedy was like, that's not happening, boys. How do we know then that we won't see people in the military-industrial complex or the CIA do something to our country and then blame it on Russia, now that we have this kind of provocative relationship going back and forth, so that we have the stomach to go to World War III, as so many of them seem dead set on going to? Any of these things concern you?
Sadly, we live in a world where that's entirely possible.
Yes.
You know, I don't like to talk about conspiracy theories and everything, but past performance is confirmation of what future performance might be. Okay, and what you should set your expectations on. So it's a very risky environment that the president in America finds themselves in today, after all of the machinations and missteps that have led us to this point, especially from Obama and Biden's administrations. It's unfortunate that this is where we're at today, and that risk is high. That risk is high, is what I would assess it. And it could be from any actor. The Ukrainians themselves would love to false flag us into attacking Russia with nuclear weapons or any weapons whatsoever and entering this war on the ground and getting NATO countries to enter this war on the ground. That's the only way that the Ukrainians will ever get any of their territory back. And I've been saying this for over a year now. If they don't come to the peace table, they're going to continue to lose territory. And I don't see the Russian government, led by Vladimir Putin or anybody in the future, to be honest with you, that is willing to give that soil back up after having expended so much blood to try to protect these Russian ethnics in these parts of Ukraine and to protect itself. Because as we all know, Ukraine has been a buffer to the rest of Europe for Russia since long before it was the Soviet Union, even when it was just the Russian Empire under the monarchy. It still used that Ukraine area as its buffer against Western Europe because it's been attacked from Western Europe so many times throughout its history. So that's where we're at. Anybody could set that up. Even I don't trust our CIA one iota. Look, the president's got great appointees at the top, and they're slowly getting people in at the second, third, and fourth levels. But there are people in the CIA today, and in the Directorate of National Intelligence today, and in the National Security Agency, in the Defense Intelligence Agency, that are actively working against this president of the United States policies and would love to see the United States and NATO pulled further into this conflict. That doesn't mean the president's going to not do the things he thinks is necessary to get the Russians to come to the peace table. And that's what his goal is here. You got to keep that in mind. So it may be unusual for a commander-in-chief of a nuclear country like ours or Russia's to say things like he just said in that post, but I'm not surprised by it. President Trump's always operated this way.
Yep.
And he's in the middle of an objective to bring this war to an end. And he's going to do everything he can short of going to war himself in order to do it. And he's not going to put up with attack dogs like Medvedev running their mouths and destabilizing the situation. And I think that's what this is about.
Here's a headline from Revolver. This guy is still secretly running key parts of the CIA, obviously John Brennan. This is the things that concern me. If this is true, and we have parts of the CIA that are walled off, that are run by the deep state, that President Trump's administration really doesn't have control over, these guys would love to see Donald Trump walk into a war, get the MAGA crowd to say, you were the guy that told us we weren't going to go to war, or to see something happen where even the MAGA crowd says, okay, now you've gone too far. You've attacked us inside our country or put down our grid and people have died. And now they do have a stomach to go to war. And it was a setup the whole time. This is the kind of part of the things that concern me. If these articles are true, you still have someone like John Brennan reportedly running key parts of the CIA. Comment?
Oh, yeah. Look, the senior advisor to the Deputy Secretary of Defense is a Biden CIA senior leader. Why is he in that role? He was put in that role under this administration. He had to be the current Deputy Secretary of Defense's senior advisor. That's a political appointee from Donald J. Trump, is where the Deputy Secretary of Defense came from. So I don't know where that guy came from, but this is the kind of thing that's happening throughout this government. And look, it takes time to get people appointed and get people confirmed and everything. But we got to figure out a way to move faster on this and get the lower non-appointed, non-confirmed require leadership positions and policymaking positions filled with people that are loyal to the Constitution and loyal to the policies of this administration that was voted overwhelmingly in by a majority vote, not just a plurality, but a majority of Americans voted for these policies. And we can't let ourselves be caught out here flying in the wind when we have the ability and we have the opportunity. That's why I've called for, Sergio Gore, who's running the Presidential Personnel Office, and Russ Vought, who designed the Schedule F process to remove resistors out of policymaking positions that are not confirmed in the government as quickly as possible. To move faster, guys. We need you to move faster. get these folks in these positions 4 levels down so that we can find the rest of the resistors, get them out of the government, and get moving forward and keep the country safe. Because this is a high-risk situation that we're in now. And we know that the establishment politicians and the national security establishment is pro-U.S. and NATO being in this war, as opposed to the American people, where the majority of us are opposed to the U.S. and NATO entering this war any further than we already are. And we'd like to see it de-escalated and decrease so that we can get a peace agreement.
Look at this article of Visgrad breaking. It is now confirmed that a Russian suicide drone has struck Lithuanian territory. The drone was filmed entering Ukrainian airspace earlier this week. It has now been found. Lithuania is a NATO member state. Now, when I read that, if this report is accurate, when I read that, what I'm thinking about is, what is it going to take for something to happen to a NATO member? And now, are we obliged to follow Article 5, or is President Trump given the option not to follow Article 5 to come to the defense and aid of a NATO member? You know, again,
Of course we're not. Article 5 of NATO doesn't require a state to take a specific action.
Right.
That is up to that state's decision makers on what action to take if Article 5 is invoked. And it's got to be invoked by the country that's so supposedly being attacked. So, of course not. But the other real reason why we should not respond in any rapid way is because Zelensky himself, remember a couple of years ago, early in the war, Ukrainian surface-to-air missile went awry and struck Poland, killing 2 farmers, I think it was, or truck drivers or somebody like that. And what did the Ukrainians and the Western national security communications apparatus try to do? They tried to say it was a Russian attack on Poland. So no, we should take a very deliberate investigation of any of these things, number one. And number two, we are not required to go to war on behalf of any country under Article 5, and especially hitting the world's 2 most heavily armed nuclear powers against each other in a war over something like that. It's just ludicrous on its face, Brandon. It's ludicrous on its face. And if the people that are so-called national security elites and foreign policy elites on the TVs and everything try to say that, they're liars. They're liars. They're dishonest. They're not honorable. And they're going to get Americans killed and Europeans killed that don't have to be killed in this conflict.
100% agree. Dangerous times we're living in. Uncertain times.
Absolutely right. Very dangerous times. And the longer this goes, and the more investment we, the United States, put into this interest, which is not a vital, I'll say it again, the eastern and southern border of Ukraine and Russia is not a vital national interest of the United States or NATO, where that's located at. As long as we keep putting more resources in, the more dangerous it's going to be. I've been saying it since February of 2022 and beyond.
Colonel Rob Maness, he's on every day, 2 p.m. Central, 3 Eastern, right here at Worldview Tube and on robmaness.com, robmaness.com. And we appreciate you, Rob. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Colonel Rob Maness checking in. Check out his site, won't you? robmaness.com and his program, 2 p.m. Central, 3 Eastern, every day, worldviewtube.com, Monday through Friday. All right, we'll be right back after this break. We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. Worldviewtalk.com. You'll also find they have, well, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want a backup to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today, worldviewtalk.com. Joining me now is Dr. Renetta Moon and Dr. Thomas Schreiner. And I have known the doctor for quite some time. He and his lovely family attended our Ozarks Worldview Weekend a few years ago, and he's been a wonderful supporter of our broadcast ministry. So when Dr. Moon said she wanted to bring on Dr. Schreiner, I'm like, I know exactly who we're talking about here, and we're glad to have him with us. Dr. Tom, Dr. Moon, thanks for being with us, guys.
Glad to be here.
Thanks for having us.
All right, what's the topic? Because I know you guys are involved in some very important work. Dr. Moon, give us an overview of what we're talking about today.
You know, there's so much happening on the issue of parental rights right now. So many parental rights that are being stripped away. And I think today we wanted just a discussion amongst us about the American Academy of Pediatrics and their recent announcement that they would like to see every state do away with religious and personal exemptions. You know, to me, unimaginable. This nation was built on a foundation of personal freedom. And given what we saw during the COVID era, you know, we saw a product be distributed and pushed and recommended for children that has absolutely turned out to be riskier than any theoretical benefit. How can the Academy of Pediatrics think that they're speaking on behalf of families and on behalf of pediatricians by pushing an agenda that would remove the ability for parents to make their own decisions for their own children? It's unimaginable.
Well, it is. And Dr. Tom, obviously this is in your wheelhouse as well, not only as a doctor, like Dr. Moon, a Christian like Dr. Moon, but also a parent. You know, I know you've got several children. I've met some of your kids. I mean, you and I know that these things are part of our biblical worldview. I mean, you think this for you as a doctor, this has got to be so conflicting because again, you're a Christian, you're a doctor, you're a parent. And how could this impact you to even hold a medical license? Or how could they use this kind of thing for you? You know, like we saw with the doctor that wanted to not give kids shots. Their parents didn't want them to give the shots. He gave them saline. The parents said, give them saline. That way the kids won't know what's going on. We won't be teaching them or forcing them to lie. And that poor doctor, who I've got to get on my broadcast, I've been texting with him. Thankfully, he has been set free. But this is setting up serious consequences where the good doctors, Christian doctors, could be put at risk of their license, correct?
Correct. I mean, for example, Paul Thomas is a pediatrician who had a large practice in Oregon, and he was kind of early, I think, in the game as far as recognizing some of the harmful effects of some of the vaccines. And so he had a book out, was it 2014, if I remember right, the Vaccine-Friendly Plan, in which he recommended certain shots be spaced out, some not be given, and the state of Oregon asked him to provide data to back up what he was doing. And so he actually contracted with an epidemiologist, and they went through, he had a large practice, 5,000 patients that were born into his practice. And they looked at the data. And out of those 5,000 patients, the ones who either followed his modified plan or gave no vaccines, of those, there were 0 cases of autism, 0. And the day that he published that data, Oregon yanked his license, and he's not been able to practice medicine since then. So yeah, people's licenses are, I'm seeing, so I've retired from Minnesota and moved to Minnesota or to Tennessee, and I've started a direct primary care practice here. And I have a lot of patients that are being kicked out of their pediatric practices because they will not follow the CDC schedule. So it's not just the official AAP that's championing this, but I think it's going down to individual pediatricians who then are saying either you follow the official plan and do it my way, or you get out of my practice.
So
I had one mom.
If the moms won't do the vaccine schedule, the pediatricians are kicking them out of their practice?
That's right. Yeah.
I had one. So a new mom, she had a baby or was going to be giving birth, I can't remember. She had contacted 10 different practices trying to find a practice that would accept her if she was not willing to find the CDC schedule, follow the CDC schedule. And 10 practices rejected her.
You know, Dr. Schreiner and I spent our careers not being anti-vax. To be called anti-vax would be laughable at this point. We trusted the system. We trusted our public health system to do the right thing. And, you know, until the COVID era opened many eyes, other people saw this earlier, I think. But the reality is that we have to have a public health service system that we can trust.
Yes.
We have to understand that they've looked at data and they are really doing or putting forward recommendations that are truly in the best interest of our children's health, and that they've done it in a way that follows the science and follows the data. Now, you know, we keep hearing this from them. Oh, we follow the science and the data. They don't. They don't have the appropriate trials for many of these products. And we saw that play out in the most catastrophic way with the COVID-19 shots for children, the recommendation to give those to children. In June of this year, the FDA actually had a press conference and they gave us a few numbers. Now, personally, I think the numbers are way off. I think they're going to be much higher than what they stated, but let's just run through them for a second. They stated that with the COVID shot, 1 in 5,000 cases, possibly as high as 1 in 3,000 cases of heart inflammation for those children. When we are looking at a nation that has 26 million children, and we quickly crunch the numbers, we're talking about literally thousands upon thousands of children that would develop heart inflammation as a result of a shot. What is it protecting them against? Our fatality rate from COVID was extremely low, all things considered. So you have to balance with every one of these products. You have to balance the risks and the benefits of that product, and also the risks of the illness itself. And we did not see that happen in any way that was sensible and logical and scientific during COVID. And so how in the world are parents to think that this is happening, is going to happen in a better way moving forward until we clean these agencies up? Mm-hmm. We need unconflicted data that is honest.
Do we need some kind of Doctor Bill of Rights, Dr. Schreiner, or Doctor Bill of Rights put in by Congress to protect doctors like your guys?
I think we need a parent's Bill of Rights as well as a doctor's Bill of Rights, because, I mean, they just outright lie. They're still saying that the risk of myocarditis in children is higher if you get the disease as compared to the vaccine, which is not true. What we really need are agencies that are honest with the data and not manipulating it.
And we need to all have a voice. But I would take it one step further and say what we need is a bill for medical freedom, for bodily autonomy and medical freedom, and to come back to a foundation of ethics again. The ethics that we don't inject people by force, by coercion, by bullying them, by telling them that their children will no longer be allowed to enter society if they don't comply with whatever the next product is that's coming onto the market. We currently have a system where there are no checks and balances on the system.
And it's the Nuremberg Code? Wasn't the Nuremberg Code supposed to keep that on a global scale?
That's correct. We saw things that we never thought we would see ever in society again during the COVID era. And it has changed the minds of many practicing physicians. Dr. Schreiner and I are here just representing, we're just two people, but we're representing many pediatricians who have completely lost their voice in this. But more importantly, the parents who have lost their voice in this with regard to the health of their own children.
Wow. Here's a tweet that was put out today by one guy. He's usually pro-Trump, and I like a lot of what President Trump is doing as well, of course. But I'm a little concerned about the tech bros. He writes, digital healthcare is the front. Social credit is the end game. Trump just handed them the keys. Trump just launched a digital health tech ecosystem with OpenAI, Google, which I think was CIA founded, by the way. Let me go look that up. Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, and Anthropic. They say it's for your health, but it's a pipeline to AI surveillance, biometric, tracking, and behavior scoring. First it monitors, then it controls. Watch Trump roll it out, then watch China show you where it leads.
But with today's announcement, we take a major.
Let's see, we'll get it bigger there.
With today's announcement, we take a major step to bring healthcare into the digital age, something that is absolutely vital. You got to do it. Moving from clipboards and fax machines into a new era of convenience, profitability, and speed, and frankly, better health for people. Under the leadership of Administrator Oz, we're officially launching the CMS Digital Health Tech Ecosystem to give healthcare providers, insurers, and software companies the tools they need to empower Americans with a 21st century experience on health. The key breakthrough we've made is getting many of the biggest names in the healthcare and technology to agree to industry-wide standards for electronic medical records. All of those great companies that you just heard have gotten together with this group of very brilliant people. I don't know who's more brilliant, them or them. I don't know. Could be them. I hate to tell you. It could very well be them. But I don't know. I'm going to take my team. But the key breakthrough we've made is getting many of the biggest names in healthcare and technology to agree to that those standards of electronic medical records that we talk about and you've heard about for so many years, and now it's happening. This will allow patients to easily transmit information from one doctor to another, even if they're different networks and using different record-keeping systems. No matter what system they use, they're all transferable. The new standards will also make it simple for patients to access their own personal health records. I don't want to see mine, please. I don't want to see. I don't know about you. They have all sorts of things, sir. They can tell you exactly what your problem is going to be in 6 years. We can do it. You know, they have all these different things. I don't know if they work or not, but I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear it. If they got a problem, I don't want to know about it right now. But it is amazing what they're doing. I don't know. Does it actually work? Can they do that? All right. Well, then I'm glad I said I don't want to know. But thanks to this announcement, healthcare providers across the country will also finally be able to kill the clipboard. It's an expression that's used, capital, with a capital C, kill the clipboard. Instead of filling out the same tedious paperwork at every medical appointment, patients will simply be able to grant their doctors access to their records at the push of a button, just a button, and you're all set, and all the information the doctor needs will be immediately transmitted. The system will be entirely opt-in, and there will be no centralized government-run database, which everyone is always concerned about. I'm less concerned than anybody. I say whatever it is. But people are very, very concerned about the personal records. They want to keep them very quiet, and that's their choice. I think it's a great thing because it'll be absolutely quiet. Instead, doctors and patients will always remain in control. The benefits to millions of Americans will be enormous. We will save time, we will save money, and most importantly, we'll save lives. It's just going to make people live longer and be a lot healthier. I think that's really what you're looking to do.
All right, a couple things jump out at me. Number one, will this work? Will this really work? And he kept really looking at Dr. Oz. Does this really work? I don't know so sure if this is really going to work. Well, I'm thinking to myself, so now you want to give me well, this could be, okay? I explained to the audience a couple days ago, I went to a doctor, and the doctor was having some digestive issues. This was 30 years ago. And the doctor put into my file, well, it could be ulcerated colitis. Well, it turned out it wasn't. But as soon as the insurer saw that, they didn't want to cover me anymore. It could be, he says, right? So I'm like, really? That's a danger. Well, 6 years from now, AI says this is what you could be, right? I mean, do you know that for sure? No, you don't. Okay. So I see a danger on that, number one. Number two, he says, people are worried about data concerns, data privacy. I'm not so concerned. It is what it is. All right. Why isn't he concerned? He should be, because your medical records, should be like talking to your pastor. They shouldn't be open to anybody getting them, right? But then number three, it's always for convenience and saving lives and safety. Are you concerned, Dr. Moon, that this is setting up with big tech a socialized medicine, number one, but then we're going to get very egalitarian, are we not? Utilitarian? Maybe utilitarian would be the word, utilitarian, where, whatever gives the best outcome to the most people. Well, you've lived long enough, you don't need more, treatment. This is the long-term prognosis, according to AI, and we're not treating that. This is how you would respond. You've lived long enough. I mean, I could see how you could use this for socialized medicine, but also credit scores. Do you have any red flags with this, Dr. Moon?
Yes, so absolutely. I would say that any technology has both good components and it can be used for evil, right? It can be used in a very bad way. And I and Dr. Schreiner, both of us, have practiced long enough that we remember the days of paper charts and clipboards, and we see what's happening today with the electronic health world. We can absolutely make things better in many ways with an electronic health system that is shared, as long as the patient controls that completely. Right now, when you see a physician who's on a large electronic health system model, you would be shocked at how many people have access to your records. You don't control those at all. Whereas in the days where we had paper charting, it was controlled. It was in our offices behind a locked door with just a handful of people that could actually look at it. So absolutely, this could be used for good and for evil. And unfortunately, the COVID era opened our eyes to the fact that there is a great deal of evil in our world and things that can go very wrong. And we need to watch that very closely. Will this be turned into a social credit type system where you cannot do certain things if you don't have, a green light on your medical healthcare record? Again, good versus evil. Dr. Schreiner.
Well, I've been doing it a little bit longer than you, Rennie. I remember when I was in private practice, we bought an old family practice from a guy retiring, and his record system were index cards with, you'd have one line, strep, penicillin. That was the visit. So we've come a long ways from that. I use an electronic record, and for me, it's a matter of convenience, because when patients call me after hours, I have access to the records so I can see what's going on. What concerns me is that the government is getting involved, because we don't need them to dictate how we do it. And if they're going to dictate interconnection, it's like, who does have access to that? So, because I don't deal with insurance companies, direct primary care, that's kind of the definition, is we don't have insurance between us and the patient. So we don't have insurance companies looking over our shoulder, my shoulder, to see whether I'm practicing the way they want to. It's between me and the patients that I have. So yeah, I have concerns. Who is going to have access to that? And it's probably way more than we would like to have.
Wouldn't they also, guys, be able to put in COVID passports quicker and easier? And know who got a shot, who didn't get the shot, who's in compliance, who's not in compliance? I mean, you
where they live.
What's that?
It's happened in our society. It's happening all over society. You know, you fly from one airport to another within the United States and you have to show your papers already. You can opt out at this point, but most people have their face scanned. You know, we're already seeing this digital world really come in over us like a cage. We're really in trouble if this isn't handled properly. And we saw again during COVID what can go wrong. So yeah, there are a lot of worries. On the other hand, it would be nice if a patient had, you know, if I could, when I'm seeing a brand new patient, have complete access to their medical records without having to wait for them to be sent or without not knowing what had happened in their past medical history. So there are advantages to this. None of us will deny that, but there are very real dangers that we can see with this if it's used improperly.
Well, and I think the key was we don't need the government involved, like Dr. Schreiner said. So the technology, the convenience, the accessibility, all that's wonderful, but we don't need the federal government involved. But do we also really need the big tech bros involved, Dr. Schreiner?
Not really. I mean, they worry me, but obviously it's technology, so somebody's got to develop the software, but yeah, I would not trust big tech at all.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys, anything else you want to bring up before we let you go and promote a website, how people can get involved with what you're doing? And I think people should be talking to their congressional representatives and at the state level too on a parent's bill of rights and a doctor's bill of rights. But Dr. Moon, anything else we should be talking about before we let you go?
All of those things, absolutely. You know, your physicians lost their voices during COVID. If they spoke out, they were in many cases punished. My situation, as we know, we've talked about that on the show many times, but really quickly, I was removed from my position as a professor of medicine at a medical school where I taught part-time for speaking at a Senate hearing back in 2022 and expressing concern that these COVID shots were being given to children. This had nothing to do with patient care, and it had nothing to do as a representative of the medical school. I was speaking as a concerned pediatrician at a Senate hearing in DC. And as a result of that, my medical school, I lost my job at the medical school and then was reported by the medical school to have my license investigated. This is the terrifying stuff that we saw happening during COVID. And so many of your physicians have been silenced, and they are either retiring early or, just sitting there quietly because they don't know quite what to do or what to say. So we need you to support the physicians who understand how dangerous this entire system is if it continues to grow larger, and to voice your concerns to be proponents of taking care of your own children, to making your own healthcare choices for your families. Don't be there silently. If a physician tells you to leave their office because you're not following their instructions or demands, go find a different doctor. Go find someone who has a DPC model practice, or someone who doesn't work under the umbrella of a very large corporation and is basically telling your physician how to practice. Because this is coming from big pharma. These instructions are coming from big pharma without your physicians having a voice any longer in your healthcare.
And of course, Dr. Moon and Dr. Thorpe are here every weekend on Worldview Tube with the two docs. And if you want to watch their program, you can do that. What time does it air on the weekends, Logan?
So, yeah,
4 p.m. Central on Saturdays and 11 a.m. Central on Saturdays. So 11 a.m. Central on Sundays and 4 Central on Saturdays. And you can also go to worldviewtube.com/TWODOCS, right, Logan? So it's worldviewtube.com/2docs, but spell out the TWO, spell out TWODOCS. Dr. Moon?
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to leave last words to Dr. Schreiner and thank him for coming on today to join me.
I'm glad to. I have so many mixed feelings about the Trump administration, because on some things they've been really good in terms of the transgender stuff. That was underwriting parents' authority as well. But then when you get to the vaccine issue and especially the COVID vaccine, Trump has never gone back and recognized that this is a harmful vaccine. So that's worrisome. And now this with the medical records, who knows where things are going.
Now,
I agree with
if people are in
find out your rights as a parent.
if people are in Tennessee wanting to have you, what are you, outside of Nashville, Doc?
No, other side of the state. I'm on the good side of the state.
You
Brandon.
are on the much prettier
North-
side, that's for sure.
in the Johnson City area. So it's Black Bag Family Healthcare.
Blackbagfamilyhealthcare.com?
Great.
Blackbagfamilyhealthcare.com. What about you, Dr. Moon?
Just Black Bag Family Healthcare, you'll find it.
Okay, Black Bag Family Healthcare, you'll find it. Just Google that or Yahoo that or whatever you do. What about you, Dr. Moon? Can people sign up and have you as their doctor?
Yeah, I don't have a traditional practice at this point, but I am just like with joining many other physicians, we have been fighting for your freedom and for your right to make parental choices. If you want to reach me or you want to learn more about what happened with my situation with the medical school, look at silentmajorityfoundation.org. silentmajorityfoundation.org. I have a legal team now because I spoke about the dangers of the COVID shots for children. This is unimaginable. I had every right to speak at a Senate hearing. It's part of our First Amendment to our Constitution. But go to silentmajorityfoundation.org, go to the tab Freedom of Speech, and I'm the second one down. You'll find you'll find letters you can read, review the situation yourselves, and see what happened. And if you want to reach me, you could reach me through that website.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thanks to both of you guys tonight. Appreciate your being with us and your strong stands.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for what you do, Brandon.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Doc. And thanks to both of you. And of course, remember now, 2 docs on Saturdays and Sundays, and then worldviewtube.com//2 docs if you want to watch all the programs and catch up. All right, we'll be right back after this break. Hello, I'm Brandon House, and I want to tell you about Numi. This is a swish. You just take 2 capfuls, swish it around your mouth for 3 to 4 minutes, and you're absorbing, according to the studies, glutathione. Now, you don't need to take my word for it. There are over 162,000 studies on PubMed on the power of glutathione. It is a powerful molecule that studies show detoxes our cells. Some studies even show that, well, glutathione might remove mercury from our brains, help to prevent things like Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. Now, look, I'm not making claims. I'm just telling you what the research is showing about the powerful molecule glutathione. Numi is the product that contains glutathione. Melissa and I swish with this twice a day. We urge you to go to Numi.com/house1. That's Numi, NEUMI.com/HOWSE and the numeral 1. Begin finding out about the power of glutathione while also supporting this broadcast network. Thank you. Joining me now is our reporter on the ground in Israel, Aaron Lavarco. He has done one of his videos touring Israel for us. We're getting a lot of people saying, keep this going, Aaron. They're awesome. We love them. This is his 3rd one. More to come. Aaron joins us now from Israel. Aaron, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Brandon. Always good to be with you. Thank you.
You too, my friend. Before we get to the video, sirens were going off. My red app was going off today. What's going on?
Yeah, I was driving again, 2nd time this week while I'm driving. The sirens go off. Yeah, we have more rockets from the Houthis from Gaza. You know, the analogy that I've been using lately, it's like weeding your garden. You think the weeds are gone, but they keep growing back. And our enemies, they won't go away. They keep coming back. So that's what's going on. Thankfully, they were intercepted, the missiles that were sent, especially the one from Yemen, from the Houthis. So no damage caused. But yeah, it just reminds us that the war is far from over. But the main focus right now is on the hostages. And it looks like our government are going to make a major decision. And it could be, because here's the thing, Brandon, while our government, they are ready to go in and demolish the Gaza Strip at the risk of even sacrificing our captives. But the public will not accept that. So our government have got to somehow find a way of satisfying the public. And what the word is that even if they do end up, killing our captives, at least our government wants to show the public that they're making every effort that they can. That's what seems to be about ready to happen, because it just cannot go on and on and on. And one of our captors was shown in a video. They showed him before October the 7th, and they show him now, and you can hardly recognize the poor guy.
Yep.
Today is 665 days. Tomorrow, Brandon, is the 666th day. And why I mention that is because tomorrow is a very historical day in the Jewish calendar. It's called Tisha B'Av, which means the 9th day of Av. And that date in our calendar, every year we fast in the synagogues on that day. Why? The first and the second temples were both destroyed on that day, and about 8 major tragedies throughout history also happened on that day. People say it's a cursed day. I just came from a Prayer for Israel meeting. We actually were praying against that curse. So tomorrow is day 666. It's Tisha B'Av, the remembrance of the destruction of our first and second temples, and many other tragedies like the Jews being expelled from London, the Crusaders, the Spanish Inquisitions, the Holocaust. A lot of tragedies happened on that day.
This is, by the way, the video. This is a picture of the young man we're speaking of, right?
That's the man. Yeah.
And he's the one starving. So all the talk of Israel starving the Gazans, it's the Hamas in Gaza starving the Jews.
Yeah, that's it's heartbreaking. I watched that video, and the guy was weeping. He was a broken man. In fact, I even saw pictures of him sitting in tunnel. He was sitting on his backside with his legs tucked up to his stomach because he hardly had any room to move there. His days are a living hell. We prayed for him. God have mercy.
Mm. Here's before. I think I got a before and after picture here. Here we go. This is it, right?
That's him. Young, handsome man, 21-year-old, and now almost 2 years later. And I also saw pictures of his arms and legs. It's like looking at people from the Holocaust. And I've heard stories, Brandon, of people, Holocaust survivors, when their body shrinks like that, it's excruciating pain. It's very, very painful. And I even gave that story. Yeah, there he is there. I'm sure you've heard of Elie Wiesel, Brandon, or
yes.
a Holocaust survivor. He was interviewed by Oprah Winfrey once, and she asked him, "What is your worst memory of the Holocaust?" And his answer was astounding. He said, "My worst memory was one day I was with my father. He was only about a 7-year-old boy. Everyone got their ration for the day, which was a tiny little piece of bread and a bowl of water with a couple of drops of soup." And he said he had his piece of bread, and then he looked over and he saw his father with his piece of bread. And he said, at that moment, I was in so much pain from shrinking, and I was so hungry. He said, at that moment, I really wanted my father to die so that I could take his bread. He said, that's what suffering and the Holocaust can do to you. But he said the pain of shrinking in your stomach and your internal, it's just excruciating.
I'm sure it is. What was he saying in his video, this young man?
Well, that's Arabic writing, so I can't read that. If you can get the Hebrew.
Let's see if there's some audio with it, Logan. Surely he's speaking in Hebrew. Here we go.
This is my name.
What's that?
2 years old.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
He gave his name and he said, I'm 22 years old.
חייל בצבא ההגנה לישראל והתעשיר של שרה אל-קודס ג'יהאד אסלאמי יותר משנה ו9 חודשים.
I've been here for over 1 year and 9 months. I couldn't hear the first part, but he said I've been over 1 year and 9 months here by the Islamists.
כבר שנתיים נמצא פה בעזה. שנתיים שאני סובל.
Yes, I've been here almost.
Say it again.
I've been here almost 2 full years.
עקב מערבות גדעון הזאת שהבאתם עלינו. כבר לי האוכל והשתייה. אם לפני כן כאילו נותנים.
Said he's hardly had any food and water, and that's all I could pick up.
And I guess we've heard reports today that this is obviously, I mean, it goes without saying, but his family is saying that they are extremely upset. Obviously, they would be. Wow.
Yeah, you know, Brandon, I don't know. I think I've reported on this before. There are some parents of captives who actually have said to the government, we think it's a better decision that you actually go in and do the job, even if it means taking out our sons and daughters, because of what the bigger picture is doing to our nation. And then, of course, Brandon, there are people who are saying that we, right from the beginning, we should never have allowed public opinion from the families and the parents to influence the government the way they have. But that's some other people say that's the strength of a democracy. So there's two completely different sides there. Some who are saying that shows the strength of our democracy, but then the other side is saying no, because it's putting too much pressure on our government when they should be free, along with the military, to go ahead and do what needs to be done. Tough situation.
All right, let's switch topics here. Aaron has gone to another location for us in Israel. This is the third and hopefully third of many videos to come from Aaron touring historic Bible sites in Israel. Where's the new location, Aaron, in this latest special?
So I was in the Mediterranean coast port city of Jaffa. Jaffa was one of about 5 ancient ports right along our western border, which is the Mediterranean coast.
Okay, let's do it. Let's go to this first clip. Here we go.
Well, shalom, everyone. This is Aaron Lavako speaking to you from Israel once again on behalf of Worldview Television and Radio. And it's my pleasure to stand here in the ancient city of Jaffa, or as it's also known in the New Testament as Joppa, or in Hebrew we say Jaffa, from the word Yafa, which means beautiful. You know, that's an old-fashioned name for a lady, Jaffa, beautiful. It's not used so many times today, but what makes Jaffa so beautiful is that we are right on the Mediterranean coast. And there behind me, you can see water coming through from the Mediterranean. Behind me is a marina, and that marina is connected to the ancient port here in Jaffa. And that ancient port was one of about 5 major ports that went right up and down the Mediterranean coast. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about Caesarea, the port city that King Herod the Great built. But this port here, Jaffa, has a history of trade, of wars, of battles, of tourism. Now, what makes this port especially interesting is that we have a story from the Bible. And that story is about a man who was a prophet. His name was Jonah. We say in Hebrew, Yonah. And you know what Yonah means? A Yonah is a dove. And a dove is a messenger of peace. And Jonah, the prophet, was told to bring a message of peace and forgiveness. But who was he told to go to? He was told to go to one of his and his family's worst enemies, the Babylonians, the people from Nineveh. That's today's Iraq. It would kind of almost be like a prophet today being told by the Lord, I want you to go to the Gaza Strip. I want you to tell them that I'm ready to forgive them. All they have to do is repent. Now, can you imagine if you're Jonah, what would you be thinking? Well, Jonah ran away, and it was to this port that he ran away, the port of Jaffa. And we know what happened, right? When he was running away, there was a storm on the boat, and the captain of the boat realized that something on the boat wasn't right. So he got everyone, and he realized, actually, when he checked under the boat, that there was someone hiding, and that was Jonah. He was hiding his peace, and he was running away. So the people decided that the best thing to do to stop this storm was to throw him over. And so what did they do? They threw him over. And lo and behold, Jonah didn't die, but the Lord sent a fish, a giant fish. And that fish swallowed him, but it didn't kill him. And Jonah was in that whale for 3 days and 3 nights. And it was from inside of that whale that he realized that the Lord got him. He couldn't run away from the Lord. And so he repented. He cried out. And he said, salvation is from the Lord. Yeshuat Adonai, the Hebrew word Yeshua. Salvation is from the Lord. Now, where I'm standing here, lo and behold, look what I have found. I don't know if this is the actual fish, but here is a model of that cute little fish, or big fish, whale, whatever you want to call it. And that whale spat Jonah out. And then Jonah got a second chance. And what did he do? He went to the people of Nineveh. He preached a message that if they would turn away from their sins and turn to the Lord, that the Lord would have mercy. And they did. They turned. There was a national salvation because of one man, Jonah, the messenger, like a dove, the messenger of peace. And you know, that message still stands today, that if we repent and turn to the Lord, there is forgiveness. If we don't, we may end up in the belly of a whale or into a situation that is pretty smelly and pretty messy. Now, I don't want to hurt the whale's feelings and say he's got bad breath, because he's kind of cute. Look at him smiling there. But for Jonah, it turned out pretty good, and God used him. He gave him a second chance, and Jonah was the vessel that helped the people of Nineveh get saved from their sins and bring about a national revival. Wouldn't it be good if God would raise up more people like Jonah? That they would send them even to people like in the Gaza Strip, terrorists who terrorize people. You know, the Apostle Saul, Paul, you know, he was a terrorist. He was murdering the Messianic believers in the early church. And he got struck down, and a man called Ananias went, and he told him that the Lord basically is ready to forgive your sins. And that man became a massive vessel for the Lord. And he became the great apostle that we call the Apostle Paul, or Saint Paul, who wrote quite a few letters in the New Testament. Just like Saul, just like Jonah, you and I have that opportunity to take the message of Yeshua, salvation, even to people like Nineveh and even to terrorists. We'll see you in a little while.
All right, so Jonah. We saw the image of the whale there, the monument of the whale, if you will, the statue of the whale. How many folks in Israel believe that's a real story? You know, here in America, there is some who say, that's just not a real story. It's not a real story. How many folks in Israel believe that Old Testament story is a real story?
Wow, that's a really interesting question. I mean, if you went along the streets and asked people, I don't know. I would imagine religious Jews would take it at face value and really believe it as a historical story. He was a prophet called into a real situation where our enemies, the Assyrians, our terrible enemies, and a prophet man was told to go and tell them that if they repent, God is going to have mercy on them. So there's nothing unusual about a story like that in the light of other prophets. The story of the whale, you know, as you would say in America, that sounds like a fish story. But you know, when you've got other stories like a donkey talking, you know, anything's possible. So I don't know how to answer that question, but I would imagine a number would actually believe that it was an actual historical story.
Well, good. I hope they do. All right, here's the next clip.
Now, today in 2025, Jaffa is a beautiful coexisting city, a city that attracts all kinds of tourists and locals. When I say it's a coexisting city, you have a blend here of Arab people, Jewish people, Christian people, Muslim people, Jewish people, because Jaffa has got such a history and a beauty about it. For example, the buildings, these go back 150, 200 years. Some of this old sandstone that it's made out of, and the old style architecture, and the beautiful pathways that are built here, the open air markets. You've even got a statue right there behind me of the old French leader, Napoleon Bonaparte, or as some people call him, Blonaparte. That's right, Napoleon came here in about 1799. And he tried to take the whole Mediterranean coast. He took over this port of Jaffa. He almost took over the whole region, but he was turned away by a group of fighting men called the Bedouins, who had special military equipment, cannons, and but there's a statue to commemorate Napoleon. In fact, Napoleon had special artists who would be watching as the war would be raging, and they would do artwork of the battle. Apparently, the people that were living here at the time, a group of Christians, they knew that once Napoleon's men came, they would not only massacre them, but before they massacred them, they would torture them. So the story goes that they all got high on drugs, morphine, to take away some of the pain that they knew awaited them. But as we stroll through this beautiful city, it shows us that, you know, there are people that work for peace here in the Middle East. This coexisting city where Jews and Arabs, they get on fine together. Actually, one of the problems here in ancient Jaffa today in 2025 is more like domestic violence, maybe drugs as well, and alcohol. But as far as relations between Jews and Arabs, it's pretty unified, and there is a good atmosphere. Lots of tourists, as I say, come here. It's all lit up at night. Beautiful restaurants here. It's very, very hot because we're all along the Mediterranean. But, you know, you just have to make sure you drink lots of water and you keep yourself hydrated, and it's fine. So tourism and fishing. I showed you earlier the port. Fishing is still a major industry. And then just people that want to go for nice little boat cruises on the Mediterranean or do water sports. That's also a very popular thing here in Jaffa. The other thing is, as I said, is eating out at night and celebrating. This is a place that a lot of people who get married, they come, they have wedding photos because of the picturesque background, the nature, the Mediterranean, and the restaurants, the food, the celebration halls that people rent out. And so it's a beautiful place to host that. Here, right here behind me, is one of those cannons that I was referring to earlier that was used in the battle with Napoleon as a memorial. So as we walk around, today it's pretty quiet. It's the middle of the week. People are at work, people are on holiday. And the other thing, it's the middle of the afternoon and it's very, very hot here. I think it's about 95, something like that. So you don't want to go outside too long without a hat and without water. Now, Jaffa isn't really mentioned in the scriptures. The region that this is mentioned in is what's called the region of Dan. This is where the tribe of Dan was given her allotment or her inheritance. But Dan did not drive out her enemies, so she ended up in the very north, on the northern border of Syria and Lebanon. But in the year approximately 1900, when Jewish people started to come back home to their ancient homeland, they were settled. A lot of them were settled here. Among them were a lot of Arabs. But the Jewish people, they wanted to move down to a land that was vacant. That land that was vacant is behind me right there in the background, in the far background. Now that land didn't have a name, but today that land does have a name, and that is Tel Aviv. Today, when you talk about Jaffa, it's pretty synonymous with Tel Aviv. So there in the background is Tel Aviv, and that's where the Jewish people, they left Jaffa, they moved down there, and they chose the name Tel Aviv, which is two Hebrew words, the word tel and the word Aviv. The Hebrew word tel is actually an archaeological term meaning a mound or a hill made up of different layers of history. The word Aviv is the word for spring, the season of spring, which basically speaks of something fresh or new. And so the reason why they chose two words, Tel and Viv, Tel Aviv, is they wanted to blend the old with the new. A Tel, which speaks of something old, and Aviv, which speaks of something new. And the idea was taken from a very famous Jewish man who wrote a book. His name was Theodor Herzl. And he wrote a book called, in German, Alte Neuland, which means old and new land. And this is where they got the idea to name that city behind me Tel Aviv. So today, Jaffa is synonymous with Tel Aviv, but she still has her own character, a character of a very coexisting, beautiful touristy city, a place where there's an ancient port. We're going to find out in a minute one of the very famous people that visited Jaffa.
So it sounds like there's a coexistence going on there. How close do they live? Do they have their separate, like the Islamists or the Arabs live here, the Jews live over here, or are they all neighbors and intertwined?
Well, you know, the analogy that I give to that, it's like in the United States, let's say whites and blacks. You've got some neighborhoods where they live together. There's coexistence. They go to school together, they work together, they play sport together, and they live in the same streets and neighborhoods. That's Jaffa. Other areas in Israel, it's like the United States where blacks and whites, they live in the same area, but there's racial tensions. You could say Jerusalem would be a good example of that, where we live together, but there's racial tensions. Then there's other areas like in the United States, blacks and whites, they just do not live together. You go into some areas, you probably won't come out alive, and that's also how it is in Israel. But Jaffa, they basically, Jews and Arabs, they live in the same streets, and there are a number of cases where Jews and Arabs actually are married together. I know at least two families where the father or the mother is Jewish and Arab, and it's a really interesting mix in Israel.
Wow. All right, let's go to the third clip here. Here we go.
Welcome back, everyone, to the ancient city of Jaffa. You know, when I think of Jaffa, I think of a word, resurrection. Why resurrection? Because there's a number of stories that speak to me of resurrection. One is the story of Jonah. In a way, Jonah went through a resurrection because he ran away from the Lord. He was in the belly of the whale, but God gave him a second chance. And in like fashion, doesn't the New Testament say, didn't our Lord and Savior Yeshua say, as Jonah was in the belly of the whale, so shall the Son of Man be in the belly of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights? It was a prototype of his resurrection. The other resurrection is the actual nation and city of Jaffa, because for hundreds and hundreds of years, it was very dormant, very little going on. But in the 1900s, and even today, it's a city that's been resurrected, and it's a thriving city today. But the third story of resurrection happened, according to tradition, right here. This is an ancient house, a house that we read about in the New Testament, in the book of Acts, where the apostle Peter raised a woman called Tabitha or Dorcas from the dead. That's right. Now, when we talk about Peter, we talk also about what he did here in the city of Jaffa. Do you remember the story I shared at Caesarea a couple of weeks ago, when about an hour's north in the ancient port city of Caesarea, a Roman centurion, Cornelius, the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said to him, send to Joppa and ask for Simon Peter, who is at Simon the tanner's house. Well, according to tradition, ladies and gentlemen, this house here is the house where Simon the tanner lived. You can actually see over the doorway where it says the house of Simon the tanner. This house has been owned by a group of Armenian Christians for centuries. And this is the traditional site. Now, Simon was a tanner, not Simon Peter, Simon the tanner. And what did tanners do? That's right, they stayed out in the sun all day and they got a tan. You guessed it. No, they didn't get a tan. Their job was dealing with ancient hides or leather. And what was interesting about their profession, they weren't particularly liked in the Jewish community. Why? Because they constantly touched the dead. They were dealing with leather, skins of dead animals. So they had to go through special ceremonial cleansing. But it was at this house that Simon Peter had just had a nice meal, and at the end of the meal, the angel of the Lord came to him and said 3 times what God has called clean, or rather 3 times he said, arise, slay and eat. And then the 3rd time the voice said, what God has called clean, don't call unclean. Now, what was that all about? Peter understood what the significance of this port city meant. And let me explain why. Remember what Simon Peter's trade was? He was a fisherman. He would have known every story in the Bible about fishing, about nets, about hooks. And he would have known the significance of being here in Jaffa, because it was here there was a fish story, a fish tale. And it was the story of Jonah. And Jonah was told to go to these unclean animals or unclean people, the Ninevites. He didn't want to. He ran away. We told that story. Now, Peter, being a fisherman, he would have known that story. And that sheet of animals, those animals stood for the nations, the surrounding nations. And God said to him, what God has called clean, don't call unclean. And what's interesting also is that twice in the New Testament, the Lord Yeshua calls Peter Simon, son of Jonah. Why did he call him son of Jonah? Was that because his father's name was Jonah? Or was that a prophetic name that the Lord was giving Peter? In essence, telling him, I want you to be like Jonah. I want you to take the message of salvation. I want you to be a dove, a peacemaker, and take the message. And that's what Peter did. And it was from here in Jaffa that he got that revelation. He got that charge. He got that call. He got that commissioning to go out to the nations. And when he arrived in Caesarea, he took that message to Cornelius. And he said, Cornelius, do you know I'm not allowed to be in the presence of Gentiles? But God has shown me that he's no respecter of persons, and that any man who fears God and does what is right is accepted by him. And that is where we have the first Gentile believer in the New Testament. That's a significant story, but it started here. It was birthed here at Simon the Peter's house. Now, almost 2,000 years later, in honor of Peter, there was a church that was built here. And right behind me here in the distance is a Catholic church called St. Peter's Church. And that's to honor Peter. Now, the Catholic Church, they believe that Peter was the first pope, because in Matthew 16, the Lord said, Peter, to you I give the keys of the kingdom. And Protestants also believe that Peter was a great apostle. And there's differences of opinion, what it means about, on my church, on you, Peter, I will build my church. Catholics believe it's on Peter. Protestants believe it's on the revelation that Peter received, who Jesus really is. But in any event, we know that Peter was a part, just like you and I, are part of God's building, what God has been doing, building his kingdom for 2,000 years. And this church, this Catholic church, in the 20th century that was built here, so pilgrims, they come and they remember the story. They go to the Armenian house of Simon the Tanner, and they tell these stories. And that's what makes Jaffa so special, past, present, and the future. Because, friends, the story hasn't finished. God is still building his kingdom. God is still using people like Jonah and like Peter. God is still giving keys of the kingdom, revelation, knowledge, that we, people like you and I, sinners that have repented, saved by grace, can unlock and help people, or to help people who are in bondage, to help unlock their lives and bring them into freedom. That's what the gospel message is all about, and that's why it's such a special place here, Jaffa, which means beautiful. Thank you, and I'll see you again. God bless you, and shalom from Israel.
So, Aaron, is that the actual house?
Well, Brandon, there are some places in Israel, I'll take groups to and I'll say 100% sure this is the place, this is the site. The Sea of Galilee, Masada, for example. But there are other places we're not 100% sure. However, this house, because of its long-standing tradition, it's at least 1,800 years that house has been believed to be the house. That gives it a lot of credibility. Would I go so far as to say 100% sure? I can't say that. But again, because of the long-standing tradition, there's a lot of credibility there. So that it's owned by the Armenian Christian Orthodox Church, the Zakarian family. And whether it is or whether it's not, we take groups there. We tell the amazing story that's where Peter, which, by the way, Peter was called the son of Jonah. Jesus called him Simon, son of Jonah. And it wasn't a mistake that he was called the son of Jonah, because it was at that port that Jonah ran away from taking salvation to the Gentiles. And now, 700 years later, God is turning to another Jew, Simon, son of Jonah, and saying, I want you to take salvation to the Gentiles. And that's what he did. He took the message to Cornelius in Acts chapter 10, the first Gentile believer that we read about in the New Testament. And it happened right there in Jaffa.
Fascinating. We're getting such wonderful feedback from our audience, and they're really appreciating these specials. Where do you think you're going next, Aaron?
Well, I'm pretty sure this coming week, Brandon, I'm going to the Dead Sea, the lowest place on the face of the planet Earth. And there's a lot to talk about there, so I'm looking forward to that.
Excellent. Well, we're looking forward to receiving it, and thank you for doing this. Again, we're getting a great response from people from all over the world who are watching these and appreciating these and loving these. People who maybe can't go to Israel on one of your tours, but if they do, of course, want to go to Israel and have you as a tour guide, all they got to do is go to lighttothenationsministry.com and you'd be their tour guide in person, right?
Absolutely. I'd be more than happy to do that.
Excellent. lighttothenationsministry.com. Thank you, Aaron.
Pleasure, Brandon. Thank you.
And folks, keep supporting our foundation, because we give love offerings to Aaron to go out there and do these kind of things for us and bring them to you. So if you appreciate all the ministry and broadcast programming we're doing, we appreciate your support so we can keep it all going. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouseBG.com. All right, guys, before we go, hey, don't forget, we have a couple new channels. WorldViewTube.com/history for our history channel. WorldViewTube.com/prophecy for our Bible prophecy channel. WorldViewTube.com/Bible, where we have a 24-hour Bible teaching show, network. 24 hours a day of Bible teaching, folks. And then, of course, WorldViewTube. And we have a new one coming, WorldViewTube.com/news. It's going to be the Worldview Report, multiple reports running, about 5-hour block, and then repeating, so you can keep up with the latest. Pushing it all out for free. All out for free. Tell your family and friends about it. And then, remember, go to worldviewstore.com, get the business cards. Picked up more of those today, didn't we, Caleb? How many we pick up? 4,000 of the new business cards, double-sided. Order up a pack of those, several packs. Pass them out. They're free of charge. Worldviewstore.com. Help spread the word about our network. We love it if you would do that. Thank you. And then, of course, remember, we're brought to you by you. One of the most powerful ways you can support us is by simply going to worldviewfoundation.com. worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address there. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you want to make a contribution over the phone, there's the number for Melissa, 901-825-0652. Leave her a voicemail or text her. She'll get back to you, help you make a contribution over the phone. Hey, don't forget about us in your estate planning. Did you know you can leave the foundation in your estate? I mean, you don't have to leave us your entire estate. I mean, you can if you want to, but some people maybe just leave us $10,000. Maybe some people leave us $100,000. I don't know. It's up to you. We have several families that have told us, they've called and told us that we're in their estate plans, and we appreciate that. We take that seriously. So if you would like to leave a legacy behind, we sure would appreciate it. All you got to do is get a hold of Melissa there at that number, 901-825-0652. Say, hey, Melissa, I need your EIN number for your foundation and your official mailing address, which is that P.O. box. Give that to your attorney and tell them we want to add the foundation to our estate planning. And then when you go home to be with the Lord, you can continue knowing that you're helping us continue to push out Christian worldview programming. All right? So we don't want anybody going anywhere anytime soon, that's for sure. But when it happens, you can know that we'll be here, continue to push out Christian worldview programming, and we're staying the course. We're staying the course. So thank you for thinking of us in your end of life giving and estate planning. All right. Worldviewfoundation.com. Roll the music. Let's call it a night. Dolly, you want to come say goodnight to everybody? Are you in here? Dolly. I don't see her either. I thought she was in here. I guess she just exited the building. All right. Well, there you go. Sorry, guys. She's doing well. She's doing well. Wait, I hear her. Hey, come on up here, quick. We're running out of time. Did you hear me calling you? I just thought you would want to say to everybody, have a great Friday night. Have a good weekend. Yeah, we need to make some dog mints. Your breath is a little doggy. We need a little, kind of smells like a dog breath, but that's appropriate. You're a dog. Maybe we could come up with some good dog mints. Name them Dolly Delights or something and offer them to all the folks out there that have pets. But anyway, I appreciate you, Dolly. All right, don't want to embarrass you about your breath, but I'll get you something later. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great night. May God save America. Take care.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government,